Salutations and greetings, gamers, and welcome back. It's me, the Doom Prophet, and I have huge news. Yume Nikki, a game that came out in 2004, is now playable on the PlayStation 1, a gaming system that came out in 1994. And if we're keeping score, currently, it is the year 2025, Anno Domini. I know, huge news. I probably should have told you to sit down first. Okay, now what exactly does this mean? Can I play the original Yume Nikki on the PS1? Well, not exactly. It is a remake slash demake to suit the vibe of the PS1, which means low poly, texture jittering goodness in 3D. Now, because I love this idea and I love the execution, I thought it would be fun to show it off, talk about it, and then talk about some of the other 3D Yume Nikki attempts. And then we're gonna run it on a CRT, just like it was clearly meant to be. But first off, okay, so if you have no idea what I'm talking about, let's start with a quick refresher. Yume Nikki is a mysterious RPG maker game made by an even more mysterious and reclusive creator named Kikiyama. Nobody knows who Kikiyama really is, but the game was dropped on the internet in 2004 and was sporadically updated for a few years. It's a moody and atmospheric game that defies classification. You play as Minotsuki, a young girl who cannot or will not leave her apartment while she's awake. The gameplay has Minotsuki going to sleep, then exploring bizarre and surreal dream worlds that you can access through doors in the Dream Nexus. The game is almost purely exploration-based. You are able to find effects through the dream world, which are abilities that change your appearance and have a very slight effect on gameplay. But it truly is a game that's meant to be experienced, not completed. It's important to note that the game does have an ending, but it's not really the point. I'd wager most people who have played the game haven't seen it. Thematically, the game is complex, causing some to feel fear and isolation, while others, like myself, find exploring the dream world incredibly relaxing and comfy. Now, you might have noticed this game is 2D and sprite-based, which is where we're gonna mix it up now. Enter the PS1 remake. This is a fully reimagined world for us to explore in 3 dimensions. Wow. Okay, so first off, the attention to detail here is amazing. This was clearly created by a huge fan. Obviously, a huge advantage in moving to 3D is we have camera controls. L1 and R1 control your camera freely. We also have the ability to go into first-person mode, which we can use to examine our environment a little more freely. Check it out. The ceiling's got texture. I can't tell you how many times I've stood on the same balcony in the original game. Seeing it in PS1 3D feels surreal, but amazing. Again, the attention to detail here is incredible, but with the visual flair of the PS1 that I love so much. Look at the lighting coming from the TV. Clearly this is a project of love. And of course, it wouldn't be Yume Nikki without it. Let's try going to sleep. Here it is, the balcony, but with an almost Silent Hill level of fog. Okay, so first impressions are amazing, but how did this come to be? Well, this is thanks to the work of the creator Elias Dollar, or Daler. I'm sorry if I got that wrong, buddy. And to be clear, this isn't Yume Nikki in the style of the PS1. It's not Yume Nikki with the flavor and vibes of the PS1. This is running on the PS1. Elias is apparently making another game for the PS1 and has developed a toolkit that is robust enough to produce this, what we're seeing today, in a span of just 1.5 months. Oh yeah, and unfortunately I did forget to mention, because I was caught up in the assignment, that what we have right now is just a demo. It's not the entirety of the Yume Nikki experience, unfortunately. Now, unfortunately, I don't have a modded PS1. If you do, you can play this on the original system. Also, look how cute this was. This is when they knew how to design a console. Look at this. Look at this, it's adorable. But yeah, sadly, I'm not playing it on my PS1, but rather emulating it with DuckStation. Let's jump in. Nasu's in the game? Amazing, but I forgot I suck at Nasu. Just kidding, I'm the best at Nasu. Okay, time to actually check out the Nexus. You can see it's been faithfully recreated, and I think it looks amazing in 3D. Great choice of skybox color. And look, this door even has the lights. Now, sadly, this tech demo has only 2 worlds for us to explore, so let's go ahead and start with Block World. Loading screens were a big part of the PS1 experience, and this is no different. Although I should note that I'm using a CRT filter here, and I loved how it looked when I was playing it, but I don't like how it looks now. Also, for some reason the top and bottom 10 pixels are cut off and I can't figure out why, and it's making me feel stupid. Okay, so in this game we can run by pressing square, and we can even jump by pressing triangle, which makes exploring Block World a little more interesting. The pop-in that PS1 has makes things a little bit more liminal, as often you'll be standing at what looks like an isolated spot, but then move just a bit and suddenly there's a huge block. This isn't a criticism, by the way, this is just a fact of life because of the PS1 hardware. Eventually, I find the restrooms, which in the original Block World will change your perspective, but since we have free cam power, they basically have no purpose here. Still, a nice detail. I know from a Yume Nikki experience that we should be able to find hat and scarf here, but I'm not actually sure if it's going to be the demo, so I look around for the landmarks that I remember. Surprisingly, they're all here. I definitely haven't memorized all the shapes of Block World, so I can't tell you if it's a one-to-one recreation, but the general vibe is there. I eventually find the wandering hat and scarf, which teleports me around as it should. Unfortunately, the exit to other parts of the dream world that is nearby is non-functional, as is the gate up here, which seems to lag the game considerably. Nevertheless, I'm happy at its inclusion, and it looks great in 3D. Then, I managed to find the actual hat and scarf effect, so that confirms that effects are indeed in the game. Going into the pause menu to use the effect, I discover photo mode, which basically just lets you freely manipulate the camera, which is an amazing bonus. I've wandered around Block World enough for now, so let's test waking up. And sure enough, works exactly like I imagined. With the photo mode, I try to recreate the angle of the original game on the balcony, but the fog is so thick you can hardly see. Alright, well, it's time to go check out Snow World, and we're properly equipped since we got hat and scarf. I'm happy to report that you can indeed become a snowman in this game. Now, in my opinion, Snow World makes the transition into 3D excellently. Snowy environments where visibility is low is what the PS1 was made for, so if you're going to pick one world to put in the PS1 demo, this was the right choice. I take off with no particular direction in mind and honestly just kind of zone out. Now, most Yume Nikki maps loop on themselves, so if you walk off the right side of the map, you're going to come back on the left, but I was unsure if this would translate to 3D. I think it does, but I seem to have some trouble walking in a straight line, and when it would loop, I seem to have deviated a bit. I guess I need the grid-based movement of the original. Now, I'm on the hunt for some Snow World landmarks. I'm assuming with how accurate Block World was, it will have at least the bed, and what do you know, there it is. I eventually find the igloo, which would normally lead us deeper in the dream. Sadly, again, this is just a limited demo. I'm able to find the other cluster of 5 igloos and the wandering Toringen, so at this point I'm convinced that everything from the original should be in this, which means that somewhere in here I should be able to get the Yuki Onna effect, the snow woman. But after wandering around for 30 minutes, I still haven't been able to find her. However, I was thinking to myself while wandering, this is the Yume Nikki experience, right? Lost in the dream world, unsure of where you are or where you're going, unsure of what any of this might mean. This has completely captured the essence of the original game for me, which is a feat that I would argue has not been done before when it comes to 3D Yume Nikki. Amazing, beautiful, thank you, Elias. Unfortunately, that's pretty much all we have for right now, because this is kind of a side project. Elias has said if there's a lot of support for this, the project will continue, so if you're a fan of Yume Nikki or this, or honestly, if you just want to do a huge personal favor to me, go support Elias's other works, or this project directly. Now, before we get to see how this baby looks on a CRT, as all PS1 games are meant to be played, I want to talk about some other Yume Nikki stuff, because it's not every day I get the excuse. This is not the only attempt to make Yume Nikki in 3D, because I think basically everyone who has played the original game has had that thought creep in. What if? Now, hear me out. What if Yume Nikki was in 3D? So now let's check out Yume Nikki 3D. So this one is made in the eDuke 32 engine, which I have never heard of, but it takes the rotating sprite-based approach. So the world is 3D, but it retains the sprite look by just rotating them to face the camera at all times. As seems to be the trend with 3D games, there's jumping, which makes sense honestly. This version of the game actually has goals, unlike the original. You're supposed to find keys, and the effects actually have real gameplay effects. Ah, the balcony. There's just something about it. I feel like I could stand here for hours. Anyway, this one starts kind of strong as the apartment and Nexus look nice, and coincidentally, the first door I go in takes me to Sekko Masada Sensei, which is usually deep in the dream, so that's cool. But as I continue to play, I quickly discover that this is really only loosely Yume Nikki themed. Most of what I would explore seems to be original content rather than taking from the base game. Now, that's not a bad thing in itself, as I have played probably 1,000 hours of fan games like Yume Nikki or .flow, but sometimes you just have a craving for the original game, but in 3D. Can it be done? Okay, that's not enough, Yume Nikki 3D. PS1 is pretty funny, but you want it on a different console from the same generation? You got it, dear viewer. Yume Nikki reimagined as a mod for Super Mario 64. Roll the footage from Yume Nikki 64. Okay, so this is kind of a joke inclusion, but I thought it was really funny. Marutsuki looks pretty strange, and funnily enough, she'll make Mario noises occasionally. Along with the Mario noises, we get Mario jumping, except the mod removes triple jump and long jump. To go to sleep, we just kind of stand on the bed, and the game will automatically have Marutsuki lay down. The Nexus looks alright, with the added benefit of having the doors from Super Mario 64, which I love. Like the previous game, this one has been reduced in scope. However, what is here is pretty faithful to the original game. It really is just Yume Nikki, but in Super Mario 64. However, the idea doesn't really give us anything extra or cool. There's no platforming challenges for us to use the jump given to us by using Super Mario 64 as a base game. And sadly, the game doesn't look very good either. Ultimately, this is just kind of a funny spectacle, but real effort was put into it, even giving it a custom title screen. So, I don't know, there you go. Yume Nikki 64. Hilarious stuff, I know, but I think it kind of goes to demonstrate how much this game means to people. There have been so many reimaginings and strange bootlegs of these games, and these projects take time and effort. Time that would not be devoted if people didn't love the game. And as someone who grew up with Yume Nikki and the countless fan games that would be to follow, I always had the thought in the back of my head as well, you know, what if Yume Nikki was 3D? It's clearly a thought we all had, which is why I was so excited way back in I think it was 2016, when Yume Nikki Dream Diary was announced. This was going to be the real deal. It was a 3D port of Yume Nikki that was official. The studio was collaborating with Kikiyama. So this was going to be it. It was going to be what we had imagined all these years, right? Well, the short answer is no. When this game did come out in 2018, you can't fathom how disappointed I was. Now, I actually made a whole video about this game back when I was a baby YouTuber, but let's look at a quick highlight reel of why well, let's just say it failed to meet expectations. But first, a message from our sponsor, which is me. Please buy my shirt. I am so... Hi, it's me, Darcy the Doom Prophet, and I have mounting medical bills. Because of my desire to continue affording to have internal organs, just kidding, it's some other less sad reason. Because of my desire to continue paying the bills, I made a product. Look at that, it's a shirt. Do you see the resemblance? Look. Yeah, so I made a shirt. It has like two variations, I think. This is the heavy cotton boxy tee, but there's also just like a regular t-shirt. I guess you want to see what it looks like on a human, huh? Yep, it's a shirt. Whoa, look at that. It's as above, so below. Double bicep. Oh. JoJo pose? Okay, so here we are in Yume Nikki Dream Diary, and I can't even pretend to be excited. When this was announced, I genuinely just expected a one-to-one remake of the original, but 3D. That would have been enough for me to give it a 10 out of 10. A game made with Kikiyama's blessing that tries earnestly to recreate the 2D assets in 3D? Are you kidding me? That would have been amazing. Instead, it's kind of a weird Metroidvania where effects let you progress to different areas. Now, that alone isn't the worst thing, and I would still gladly take that. But, like 80% of the game isn't even 3D exploration. It's 2D 3D where you can only travel left and right. And I would still take that. But, get this, the game is missing the vast majority of worlds from the original game. And I would still be happy with that, except for some of the largest worlds in this game aren't from Yume Nikki. Yeah, this game wastes a ton of resources on areas that are at best inspired by the original game. This and a bunch of other factors have led me to believe that the studio was working on some sort of horror title when they randomly got the rights to Yume Nikki and modified the game to fit that better. That's the only way I can explain these gigantic areas that are dedicated to a city and then just like a school. Now, it's not all bad. There are some sights to behold that will bring a lot of joy. The Yume Nikki soundtrack is gone for some reason, but I actually like the OST that replaces it, so it's not all bad. And finally, we get an interesting reframing of the ending. Again, just go watch my video if you want the deep dive. And that's the last of the 3D stuff I wanted to show you. So now it's time to see what Yume Nikki PS1 looks like on a CRT. Okay, I'm not gonna lie, this is kind of more for my benefit than yours. But still, believe me, if you were standing right here, it looks amazing. Well, that was a little look at some of the 3D Yume Nikki projects that have happened over the years. If you've watched this far, thank you. I appreciate it, and I appreciate you. I hope you choose to support Yume Nikki on PS1 because I have so thoroughly enjoyed it and I want to see more of it. And honestly, I'll take any excuse to talk about Yume Nikki because there have been so few games that have had such a profound impact on my life. I genuinely think it is just a very, very special game. Now, if you've enjoyed any of this, I hope you'll like and subscribe and tune in next week. I've been your host, the Doom Prophet, and remember, the end is nigh. So take it easy. And if it's easy, take it twice.